Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast. This is the final part of the 2022-23 College Basketball Prediction Show. Part 4 of 4. I'm going to do my first projected bracket, and I'm going to do all my major awards. So we'll do the bracket projection first, the preseason edition. So, I'm just going to go through the seeding order. Alright, my number 1 overall seed, West Region, the Gonzaga Bulldogs. The number 2 overall seed, and number 1, the South Region, the Houston Cougars. Number 3 overall seed, 1 seed in East Region, the North Carolina Tar Heels. And my number 4 overall seed, number 1 seed in the Midwest Region, the Kentucky Wildcats. Alright. 2 in the Midwest, Illinois. 2 in the South, Baylor. 2 in the East, Arizona. 2 in the West, UCLA. 3 in the East, Kansas. 3 in the South, Michigan. 3 in the Midwest, Texas. 3 in the West, Villanova. Virginia. Wrong V school. 4 in the East, Villanova. 4 in the West, Tennessee. 4 in the Midwest, Duke. 4 in the South, Arkansas. 5 in the West, TCU. 5 in the East, Alabama. 5 in the South, Creighton. 5 in the Midwest, Oregon. 6 in the Midwest, San Diego State. 6 in the West, UConn. 6 in the South, Dayton. 6 in the East, Purdue. 7 in the South, Virginia Tech. 7th in the Midwest, Auburn. 7th in the West, Oklahoma State. 7th in the East, Florida State. 8th in the Midwest, Michigan State. 8th in the West, USC. 8th in the East, Xavier. 8th in the South, St. Mary's. 9th, Midwest, Memphis. 9th East, Oklahoma. 9 West, Miami of Florida. Miami, the Canes. 9 South Region, A&M. 10 seed South, Providence. 10 seed West, Ohio State. 10 seed East, Wyoming. 10 Midwest, Arizona State. 11 South, Florida. 11 West, St. Louis. 11 seed Midwest play-in game, Rutgers, Notre Dame. 11 seed East Region, Cincinnati, BYU. 12 East, UAB. 12 Midwest, Towson. 12 South, Furman. 12 West, Toledo. 13 Midwest, Liberty. West, Iona. East, Louisiana. South, Montana State. 14 seeds, East, Drake. West, Grand Canyon. South, Vermont. Midwest, Longwood. 15 seeds, Midwest, East, Santa Barbara. South, Princeton. East, Morehead State. West, Oral Roberts. 16 seeds, Midwest, Colgate. East, Northern Kentucky. Playing game South, Norfolk State, Nichols. And West, playing game Sacred Heart and Southern. So, there would be some interesting potential matchups. Like, Elite 8 would be something fun. Would be Gonzaga potentially against UCLA or Virginia. Or Villanova. Or somebody in that nature. In the South, you would potentially have Baylor against Michigan. One team that won the title, another team that was in the title game several years ago. So something interesting that I think would have been fun is to pick the Final Four based on like my bracket projections. So I did just that. So Final Four: Carolina, Kentucky, Baylor, and UCLA. So that's a really fun Final Four right there. A lot of blue bloods, and then a team that won the title 2 years ago in Baylor. And my national title game pick, I'm going to go with Carolina over Kentucky. So I have the Tar Heels getting to back-to-back title games and winning the title this time, just like what happened in 2016. They lost the 2016 title game to Villanova, and then they won the next year against Gonzaga. They lose against Kansas. I have them winning over Kentucky this time. All right, National Player of the Year, I'm going with Drew Timme of Gonzaga. I think that Gonzaga is going to be unstoppable, and Drew Timme is going to be a big part of that. National Freshman of the Year, I'm going to go with Derek Lively of Duke. I think that he's going to be hands down the best freshman this year. And National Coach of the Year, I'm going in the ACC, but I do not have it being Hubert Davis. I'm going with Tony Bennett of Virginia because I think he'll put them back into national relevancy, and I have them as a 3 seed. I almost picked them to make the Final Four, but I just didn't have the balls to do it, so instead I went with the UCLA to go to the Final Four instead of them. All right, so that was the last part of the college basketball season predictions show. It was a lot of fun to discuss. And a couple other things I want to discuss. Teams I considered for play-in spots for the tournament. I considered Boise State. I considered Tulane. I considered Texas Tech. I thought about Ole Miss. I thought about Syracuse again. There's a lot of different teams I thought about in different leagues. I thought about Iowa. I thought about a bunch of different teams, like I mentioned. Arizona State. Actually, no, I have Arizona State, and never mind. I thought about Washington State. I mean, it was one of the states in the Pac-12. I thought about even putting UAB in the field and North Texas as the auto bid. I thought about that, but I didn't have the guts to pull the trigger. How about some predictions to wrap up this show in terms of like national relevancy predictions? I don't think Gonzaga makes the Elite Eight. Let's say they lose to Tennessee in the Sweet 16. Double-digit seed that makes a surprise run. I could see it being Liberty. So they would knock off... Ooh. Could I see them beating Duke? I don't know if they would beat Duke. Darius McGee and company. That would be a lot of fun. Maybe it's Iona with Patino. No, I would have them playing Tennessee. I don't see it being Vermont. Maybe it's Louisiana. They knock off Villanova. You know what? Let's have some fun. Let's make it Liberty. But I would have them knocking Duke off and knocking off Oregon. That'd be a lot of fun. If there's this year's St. Peter's candidate, I know Liberty on paper better than St. Peter's last year, but if there's any surprise fun team to make a run, it would be Liberty. We talked about how I think Patino is going to jump in the last podcast. I think Wes Miller could jump. I think Furman's coach can jump. Drake's coach can jump. And there's a lot of familiar faces in old places. Like we talked about Steve Prohm at Murray State as like a lower one. Thad Matta, Butler. Obviously Sean Miller back at Xavier is another one. So I think that's a really fun storyline to follow. Who brings their team back the relevancy of the guys that went back home. Transfer impacts is interesting. Other hot seat coaches, a ton of them in the ACC and the SEC, in my opinion, and even the Pac-12. I think the Big 12 is safe in terms of their coaches because Kansas State finally moved on from Bruce Weber. So, yeah, it should be a really, really fun year ahead. A lot of stars are made, but the one thing that I think the season is missing is Victor Wembanyama and Scoot. I think those guys are missed, but I still think college basketball will still live on and still be great without those two great talents. All right, hope you guys have a great, great night, everyone.